Hello, everyone. My name's Rick McCutcheon. I'm a Dynamics 365 MVP, and I'm here today with Jason Gumpert and Adam Berezin from MS Dynamics World. Gentlemen, introduce yourselves.
Sure. Hey, everyone. I'm Jason Gumpert. I'm the editor and co-founder at MSDynamicsWorld.com.
I'm Adam Berezin. Happy to be here with you, Rick. I'm also a co-founder at MS Dynamics World, and I head up the ISV in marketing.
Okay, great. So I wanted to, meet up with you guys. This is kind of we're closing out the year, and oh my God, what a year 2020 has been. So, I always look at MS Dynamics World, MSDW, as really, one of the publications, I'll say online publications or portals that has a really good pulse on the Dynamics world and what's going on. So why don't we talk a little bit about 2020 and how it affected the partner ecosystem? Jason, why don't you start first?
Sure. Well, when in talking to partners, the ones who had already sort of embraced cloud in as many senses as they could possibly, in 2018, 2019, were extremely well positioned this year. They were able to have conversations with customers, some who were very advanced already, and some who were scrambling to get on board with SaaS, with integrating various solutions together, with building out automations that they maybe didn't have, and we're very much ready to take on that challenge and help be the sort of trusted guides for their customers. Other partners, especially ones who had just been slower in transitioning their teams, transitioning the skill sets of their employees into that world, some of those have certainly struggled, and some of them honestly are struggling alongside customers who tend to be sort of in that same position. And there's oftentimes a selective element, I think, where the partners who tend to be a little more focused on-prem or on legacy tend to have customers in the same boat, and maybe there's the most friction or the most potential for pain in that area. But I mean, by and large, what I've seen is partners really just stepping on the gas and building an even stronger sort of presence with what Microsoft's put out there for them, I would say, and also probably in the rest of their digital portfolios beyond Microsoft too.
Okay, Adam.
Well, I kind of come at it from a different perspective. I look at it from the partner marketing perspective, and there was. It was kind of a chaotic year, I think, for a lot of partners from a marketing standpoint, especially marketers that didn't have a true digital strategy for marketing. And that really forced them to pivot halfway through the year. And I think it was very tough for a lot of partners. Some partners were able to actually adapt pretty quickly. But I think there are others that are still struggling to kind of find their foothold in sort of the now, pure virtual world that we find ourselves in. I do think, though, that the biggest takeaway from a marketing perspective is that you really can't kind of have all your eggs in one basket, for lack of a better kind of expression. If you only have a marketing strategy as a partner that is just geared towards traditional vehicles like in-person trade shows and other kind of face-to-face activities, then you are one of the partners that really had to pivot and find a digital strategy. And I think kind of the big takeaway is you have to plan out your entire annual strategy, and you have to have digital be a large part of that.
So, what I find really interesting is I think what 2020 did was put the final change in the buying process of the software buyer. For years, we've seen it move to be less and less in person. Do I have to meet the person? Do I have to deal with somebody locally? Or do I ever have to meet them?
Yeah.
Or do I ever even have to talk to them?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking we're seeing the importance of sites like G2 and Capterra that have a lot of software reviews on them, where people can go out and start to really, dig into what people are saying about you and saying about your product. Things like LinkedIn have allowed them to go out and find your customers, really, and go and talk to your customers. So I think because we're all stuck inside in 2020. That's what we all learned how to do very well, is navigate the web and find information and really understand the product, understand who's going to deliver it for us, and what's this really going to cost me in sort of time and effort. So I think the buyer now has become much more sophisticated.
Oh, sure. They've become much more educated, absolutely. But at the same time, they're inundated with more information now than they ever have been. So, to be able to disseminate from that, from all the different information that is out there, therein lies the challenge for those partners that are really trying to deliver their message to those customers. How do you do that? What new strategies and tactics do you have to take? And that's a challenge.
Do you think your dog's agreeing with you or disagreeing?
Let me actually go ask him. I'll be right back. Okay, let me just move him.
So Jason, your thoughts?
Yeah, for sure. There's never been more pressure to put out really engaging content. If you're a partner marketer, people have the time. They're not people who would be doing research perhaps on the road, traveling to events and talking to vendors there or sitting in on sessions. They can do a lot more of that, from their desk, for better or worse. And what we're seeing, I can say anecdotally at least, is a lot more engagement when it comes to webcasts, a lot more sort of time taken to ask questions. And I think partners are responding in kind with more video content, more presentations of their own to sort of dive deeper and to go broader even on what they want to make sure that their potential buyers know about them, from who they are to what their solutions are. And I think that all makes sense, because I think there's more bandwidth to absorb it online now than there ever was. And, with properly crafted sort of, marketing and sales processes and pipelines, companies, at least the good ones in the channel, are navigating that quite well. I think others are playing catch up though.
So what I like about your content too is, the content from Microsoft's really about the product and what the product can do for you. There's lots of places to go where I can find out why this piece of software is not loading properly, right? Or my upgrade's failing or whatever, something going on. Lots of good technical people out there ready to ask questions. But if I'm the business buyer, if I'm the business decision maker, I need a place to go to, consume a webinar on this subject. Talk to users and see users talking about their product. And I think, you sort of fill that void. So did we see content change in 2020? And are we going to see content change even more in 2021?
I think one of the big things that you're going to find, and I think this is also true with a lot of executives also, is that people want to multitask while consuming content, especially now more than ever. So, we still see lots of downloadable content being heavily consumed, like white papers and ebooks, but a lot of that is really shifting towards videos, podcasts, webcasts, recorded webcasts. If you think about it, you can listen to a podcast and do lots of different things. You can listen to a webcast and do lots of different things. If you're reading, a 15, 20 page ebook, you can't really do anything else besides do that. So I think that's really kind of important to take note of as a partner, in terms of what type of content you want to start creating and you want to invest in. And it's really that content that is very easy to consume and people can multitask while consuming it. At least that's what I've been seeing.
Well, I was going to take the question in a pretty different direction. And that's when I look at what Microsoft puts out in terms of information about their products, and even what partners put out, or ISVs put out in terms of what their products. I think what I am always trying to do a little differently is to cut a straight line right through whatever they're saying and lay out a much like a very factual approach. And sort of straight talk about some of these things tends to get our readers' attention. And that's what I'm always encouraging. I work on the sort of the news and article development, but I also talk with marketers and ISVs and partners a lot. And I'm always trying to just kind of give as much straight talk as possible, so that, because I think readers, especially end users and people making decisions about solution investments are really hungry for just very sort of honest accounting of what it is that these solutions can offer them. It might take a few tries. It might take some conversation, obviously answering questions and investigating in more detail to do analysis, but there's always an appetite for like really substantive, like straightforward perspective.
Yeah. And what I think is important too is in Adam, how do you break through the crowd? And I really think you break through the crowd is with thought leadership. I think more partners have to understand that sure, they know how to do something well, and they may be good at manufacturing, at retail, at public sector, private sector, whatever they've picked, but they need to be seen as thought leaders. And whether that's through podcasting, whether that's through webinars, or whether that's through, an expert panel discussion, being speakers at a conference or something of that nature, I think that becomes more and more important because the buyer is consuming a lot of things that look the same. Yeah. Now, how do you sort of move up to that next level?
Exactly. And you made a good point when you brought up Capterra and sort of these other kind of, I guess, pure solution directory, solution listing sites. And I think that's the biggest downside of those particular sites is that you don't, as a partner or an ISV that lists on those, you don't really have a personality. You're kind of like, you have a solution listing and then people can see reviews and they can see the capabilities of the solution. But as you said, you can't tell that story and you can't really position yourselves as thought leaders and experts, which I 100% agree with you. That is critical for all ISVs to do in partners. And we've been, Jason and I have been saying this for years too. There's just not enough ISVs and partners out there that are really willing to kind of look beyond the product pitch and tell this compelling story to the prospect. I also think too, from kind of a message delivery standpoint, because of this massive information overload, because everybody is doing everything virtual now, and therefore they're pumping out, even more digital content than ever before, and it's just flooding everything. What I think is really critical for partners to do is to be much more focused with their message. So if they are trying to, reach people that, let's just say, use AX in the manufacturing industry, why not kowtow to their specific specific stage of the purchase cycle and create content for people that fall within that target criteria, but are in the later stages of the purchase cycle, and then maybe in the early stages of the purchase cycle. So, you're kind of directing that message to very specific groups of people within the target audience that you want to reach, as opposed to just kind of going out there with a blanket message that talks about the benefits of this or the benefits of that. You're really directing it more towards a specific person as opposed to a group of people.
Yeah, so that's interesting. And I think that partners need to quit thinking locally and think globally, right?
Yeah.
Because if they're good at something, there's no real boundaries to where they can work. Yeah. And, I look at Nick Hayduke, and he does some work for you guys around portals. I know Nick works on Power Platform portals. We used to call them Dynamics portals, and he's got projects in Europe, North America, he's South America, Australia. They do it around the world because they've got their niche, right? And they've become very good at it.
Yeah, he does a monthly webcast with us about sort of portals news, and he brings on guests. And the audience is always as international as you can imagine.
Just to add one more thing too, just on the partner side, in the content delivery side, in the messaging side, I think partners tend to get a little hesitant to get more focused, whether it's through verticals or however, because they feel that they're going to reach less people. And I think for a lot of companies, it's all about quantity. But even if you do reach less people by being more focused, those that you do reach, they will have more worth to you than the large quantity of people that you reached before that really didn't even do anything for you. So it does pay to be much more focused, I think, in all aspects.
Well, I can talk to that because before Dynamics CRM was a product, I was a CRM expert. And
Mm.
I tell you, when CRM Microsoft came out with a product, I said that sounds like a good thing to tie my wagon to. And after that, I didn't do any other projects on any other platform, just Microsoft. And I got to tell you that my business became a lot easier.
Mm.
And as you narrow it down farther and farther, now I kind of just work with partners, helping partners grow their practices, right? So the narrower you get in this Microsoft world, the more business I think you get.
Yeah, and if you think about it also, like coming from a partner, if you narrow your focus area, you can be much more of an expert in that one area as opposed to, being okay in a bunch of different areas. So then you can really hone all your company's resources just to, being the best, at providing, whatever solution it is to manufacturing organizations or to professional services companies, whatever it is. I think it's important for partners to kind of reevaluate where they're, putting the primary focus on and make it narrower.
So let's kind of take our lens forward now and start to look at 2021.
Mm.
Any predictions for the channel in 2021 and where we think both ISVs and SIs are going to take their businesses to become more successful?
Well, I can carry on from that last point, which is I see no sign that the emphasis on industry will slow down in 2021. I think we'll see Microsoft's industry teams continuing to come to the fore, be one of the leading faces to the public at Microsoft for the commercial group. And from the partner side, I see no indication why they wouldn't continue to encourage, as they have before, but even more forcefully to continue to encourage partners to be part of that effort to build industry-focused practices, to build industry-focused IP, and to try to compete on that with in the Microsoft channel and on new opportunities, and to really make that more rewarding for those partners. So not all partners will follow that. I think they never will, but I just see that that pressure continuing to build, the investment continuing to build. And if we're going to think about sort of news and announcements in 2021, I expect to see a lot more from Microsoft that's very industry focused and probably bringing a lot of partners along with them.
Great. Adam, anything to add for 2021?
Well, once again, I'm kind of coming at it from sort of the partner and ISV marketing perspective. And once again, I think it's very important to lay out an entire annual marketing strategy instead of doing things, piecemeal. I think you need to have a large, integrated strategy that can incorporate a lot of different things digitally. But I think that strategy has to be there because I think, once again, I don't want partners and ISVs to be in a similar situation where they have to pivot so hard and it negatively impacts their business. I think that if they're able to just put together that integrated strategy, then I think they'll be fine. And then I think, once again, if they narrow their focus from a content delivery and messaging perspective to reach specific people in certain stages of the buying cycle, within certain industries that use, a specific Dynamics platform, think niche, basically, I think would be kind of the big takeaway for ISV and partner marketers in 2020.
And on that, like traditionally we saw an ISV and we saw an SI partner, right? Mm. What are you when we ask them?
Yeah.
I think we're going to see the hybrid model where more partners are going to say, okay, I'm very good at retail. I'm very good at manufacturing. I'm very good at government. I will continue to work within that vertical and I'm going to create IP, but that IP is not a widget, right? It's not a marketing automation tool. It's not a chat tool. Yeah. This IP is really going to be based around this customer. Mm-hmm. And when I drop in and see the next customer, I'm going to have 60% of this built for them already. And then I'm going to just customize 40%. Mm-hmm. So is that an ISV or that's an SI? And I think it's almost this hybrid. Sure. And I think it's going to dominate going forward as companies are saying, I need help with Dynamics, but I need help with people who understand insurance, retail, manufacturing, and who can come in here and actually help me move my business forward.
Mhm.
I would just say, yeah, I agree with you, Rick, and that will actually put a lot of pressure, I think, on the partner channel in terms of talent and in terms of, I guess, business development too, and execution, where business development teams will have to be able to sort of position the advantages of that kind of a 60%, 80% type of IP that they can sell, maybe not quite as an ISV, but something similar. And then on the back end, having teams that are experts in continuous integration and delivery, who understand that the right mixes of Azure services, the right kind of sort of development skills, and all of that goes into putting a solution together that can really deliver that and sort of jump past what would have been starting from sort of a much more basic point in a more traditional on-prem type of scenario from the past. That pressure will only grow, and those kinds of expertise they're just changing, as time goes on here into 2021.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you for your time. I look forward
Thanks for
to
having us.
catching up again in 2021, and I'm looking very forward to 2021 getting here, so we can hopefully get things back to normal. So thanks again, and have a great day.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.